The dinner table appeared to be peaceful. The cameras were rolling, and the music was playing softly, until Yandy revealed a secret so shocking that it destroyed all the tranquility in the space. When rumors of pregnancy emerged, what began as lighthearted banter and glasses clinking descended into a night of unimaginable mayhem, pulling Sierra and Mendeecees into the middle of an unforeseen tempest. According to witnesses, the tension was so thick that a knife could cut through it. The same question is being asked by fans, insiders, and everyone else. What specifically did Yandy tell that left Sierra crying uncontrollably and Mendeecees stunned? According to the speculations, this was not merely a careless utterance, but rather a well-timed bombshell that revealed covert meetings, hidden relationships, and perhaps a pregnancy scandal that might ruin both marriages and friendships. Every moment of this discovery has left viewers startled and split, from Mendeecees' stunned stillness to Sierra's ferocious outburst. Was this a long overdue confession or a deliberate attempt to sever the relationship between two individuals who were already on shaky ground? Get ready, for the more you examine this drama, the worse it becomes. The evening began with a few inside jokes, smiles, and what appeared to be sincere attempts to maintain goodwill. But beneath the smiles lay years of unresolved tension. For the majority of the evening, Yandy had remained silent, watching, listening, and allowing the discussions to drift around her like smoke. However, her acquaintances could sense that something was developing. Her eyes had a certain weight that gave the impression that she was waiting for the ideal opportunity to speak, not just to do so. She leaned in, her voice cutting through the noise as the laughter reached its climax and the energy felt light. Insiders claimed that it wasn't just the words she spoke, but also the manner in which she did so. Steady, composed, and confident, as though she had been holding this truth for a very long time. She added that everyone, including Sierra, needed to hear something that could no longer be kept a secret. The mood changed instantly. Mendeecees looked anxiously. Sierra's smile stopped in the middle of her laugh, and the room itself felt as though the walls were closing in. Fans who later saw the video said they could sense the tension through the screen as attendees exchanged uncomfortable glances. Yandy's next remarks were like a bomb. Rumors of a pregnancy that had a direct connection to Mendeecees and thus threatened to drag Sierra into a scandal for which she was unprepared. The room was filled with gasps. Some gripped their cups. Some muttered to one another, and then there was a sudden silence that made every moment seem to drag on forever. Sierra's face flushed with disbelief as she instantly pulled her chair back. "What exactly are you discussing?" she yelled, her voice wavering between dread and rage. Mendeecees sat still, his hand clutching the table's edge. He paused before denying or clarifying, and that in itself raised suspicions about the situation. Fans quickly noted that his quiet was out of the ordinary. Usually quick to offer an explanation or an excuse, he was rendered speechless this time. Yandy didn't hesitate. She clarified that there had been persistent suspicions and whispers for weeks that someone close to them had been concealing something significant, and she was unable to keep it to herself any longer as evidence began to come to light. She claimed that there were enough evidence, private discussions, and confidential exchanges to make the tale unavoidable. Sierra turned to Mendeecees and demanded that he speak up, her eyes burning. She slammed her hand against the table and said, "Tell her she's lying." Since she already knew in her heart that silence indicated guilt, her tone was frantic, even imploring, as she said, "Tell me right now this isn't true." They were surrounded by shocked guests. Others leaned in closer, determined not to miss a word, while others attempted to diffuse the atmosphere. Everyone was left reeling since the drama had gone from pleasant banter to full-blown turmoil so swiftly. Mendeecees opened his mouth at last, but the words he said didn't help. "It's not what it sounds like," he said in a low, unpersuasive voice. The fire was only fueled by those 7 words. Sierra burst out, her voice increasing as her eyes filled with tears. "Is it not as it sounds? Can you hear yourself? It's either true or not." Supporters who witnessed the scenario said it was one of the most heartbreaking things they had seen in a long time. Emotions were running fast, and Sierra's anguish was evident and raw, but Yandy's face was composed and almost icy, as though she had been bracing for this very response. The discussion went awry. Like daggers, accusations flew over the table. Sierra claimed that Mendeecees had betrayed their entire relationship, not just her trust. She doubted his honesty, loyalty, and even his capacity to meet her gaze without wincing. Every syllable was laced with pain and incredulity, but Yandy was not going to give up. She reaffirmed her assertion that the truth will eventually be revealed, and that it was preferable to have it revealed now, rather be let to fester in secrecy. She talked about accountability, integrity, and accepting the consequences, no matter how unpleasant they may be. By now, the room was separated entirely. While some defended Yandy, arguing that she was correct to expose the truth, others charged that she had picked the worst possible moment and location to discuss such private issues. The meal, which was supposed to represent solidarity, had turned into a battleground. Sierra's voice broke as she repeated the question to Mendeecees. Is it true? Her question's urgency was devastating. This was about her life being ripped apart in public, not just about rumors anymore. Mendeecees couldn't meet her gaze, so he dropped it. No denial could overpower the quiet. Sierra's face broke beneath, the weight of what that stillness signified, and gasps reverberated. With her chair squeaking on the floor, she sprang up suddenly and gestured at him with trembling hands. You knew this was looming over us, yet you still allowed me to sit here and smile and laugh? You have made me look foolish in front of everyone. She strode away from the table, rejecting the appeals of friends who attempted to console her, tears streaming down her face. The door's crashing sound reverberated like the last flourish of a dramatic scene. However, the tension persisted long after she left. There was a lot of conjecture in the room as people feverishly whispered to attempt to put together what they had just seen. Some demanded more information, leaning against Yandy. Others gazed at Mendeecees, anticipating his eventual explanation. He hid his face in his hands instead, whispering something that no one could hear. Every moment was captured by the cameras, and fans would watch those moments again on the internet, dissecting each gesture, facial expression, every glint of remorse or guilt. For many observers, the delivery of the discovery was just as important as the revelation itself. One of the most memorable moments in recent memory was created by the timing of Yandy's comments, their unquestionable impact, and Sierra's loss of composure. Even though the aftermath had only barely started, the harm was already evident. Trust had been broken, relationships had broken down, and the audience was left wondering how anyone could get past a night that revealed such agonizing, profound secrets. Others contended that Sierra's suffering was too real to be written off as entertainment, while others maintained that this was just another episode in the chaotic world of reality TV drama. It was obvious that the public was seeing unadulterated, heartbreaking feeling rather than merely a plot. The air was heavy with astonishment after Sierra rushed out of the room. Uncertain of whether to follow her or remain behind, many moved in their chairs and whispered. Mendeecees continued to refuse to remove his face from his hands, but Yandy sat up straight and maintained a hard look. A harsh, "So it's true then?" from one of the visitors broke the excruciating silence. The tension was rekindled by that straightforward query. Mendeecees slowly raised his head, his eyes crimson with annoyance. He said, "I didn't want it to come out like this." However, their remarks infuriated the table even more rather than diffusing the issue. Some guests shook their heads, others gasped, and one even whispered the word coward under their breath. Leaning forward, Yandy seemed to be daring him to go on. "So you acknowledge it?" With a calm yet accusatory tone, she asked. He didn't respond. Right away, but his expression and his silence spoke louder than words could. Just then, Sierra's voice could be heard outside the room, yelling at whoever was attempting to console her while crying. "Don't tell me it's okay, and don't touch me. For what length of time has he been deceiving me?" Mendeecees found every syllable to be twice as painful as before, as the sound reverberated around the room. After analyzing this scene, viewers pointed out how drastically Yandy's role changed. She was no longer only the one revealing the secret. She was now practically serving as a judge and jury, forcing the Mendeecees to come clean. "For what duration? Did you want to conceal this from her?" Her tone was stern as she inquired. Mendeecees struck the table with his fist. On the defensive, he stated, I was protecting her. However, Yandy did not recoil. Keeping her safe, she fired back, knowing her whole life is a lie. From what? From being aware that the man she most trusted has been surreptitiously moving about behind her back? That is treachery, not protection. Some of the visitors intervened to try to defuse the heated situation. However, the harm was already becoming worse. You should go to her, one friend said, turning to Mendeecees. You should take care of this before it's too late. However, someone else interrupted, asking, what will he say? The reality? It has already ruined her. With her phone in her hand, Sierra paced back and forth outside. She called a close relative, sobbing as she spoke, tears streaming down her face. She trembled as she muttered over the phone, "You won't believe what just happened." Her family's response was a mixture of incredulity and rage, demanding that she leave right away and telling her that she deserved more since he's been hiding something that changes everything. Yandy returned inside and focused on the other people at the table, demonstrating her choice of this particular time. She said, "Everyone here deserves to know what's been going on. It's not just about Sierra, it's about trust being broken and about all of us being duped." The guests were in a state of shock, debating whether Yandy was correct to speak up or, if she had gone too far, some leaned closer to one another. "She's brave for saying it, but this is going to destroy everything," said one buddy in a whisper. Destroy? It has already been destroyed. She simply tore off the bandage. At last, Mendeecees rose up, his chair making a loud scraping sound against the floor. "Enough!" he shouted, his voice quivering with a mixture of desperation and rage. "You all believe you understand what's happening, but you don't have the whole picture." Immediately, the room fell silent as everyone hung on to what he had spoken. He stopped, looked in the direction of the door where Sierra had gone, and then turned back to Yandy. "You have no idea how much I've sacrificed. You have no idea how much pressure I've been under. Yes, I made mistakes, but not all of what you're claiming is accurate." Yandy's eyes narrowed. "What aspect of it is false, then?" she asked sharply. Mendeecees was clearly having difficulty coming up with a response that wouldn't question him further as the silence dragged on once again. His incapacity to protect himself astounded the onlookers. Others questioned whether he was concealing something even more significant, while others claimed that his hesitancy spoke louder than any denial. The door abruptly swung open, and Sierra came back with her voice rough from crying and her eyes swollen. Standing directly across from Mendeecees, she demanded, "Say it to my face. Is it accurate?" The room held its breath. He opened his mouth, shut it again, and then muttered, "Yes." Around the table, there was a collective gasp. One of Sierra's friends hurried to catch her before she fell when her knees gave up. Fans later called it the night's most painful moment since it was impossible to behold the heartbreak in her eyes. She wasn't done, though. She gestured at the Mendeecees after, gathering her power and pushing the consoling arms away. "You have degraded me in front of the world and everyone else." Her words pierced like knives, and despite her tears, her voice was angry. "I can never forgive you for this." Mendeecees extended his hand to try to touch her, but she jerked back. "Avoid touching me," she warned icily. "The moment you decided to betray me, you forfeited that right." As she watched, Yandy shook her head. "When lies accumulate, this is what happens," she stated quietly but forcefully. "Truth always manages to come to the surface." The guests were caught between wondering what would happen next and feeling sorry for Sierra. Some argued that there might be additional layers to the narrative that are still unknown, while others urged her to go and never turn around. The speculation was only stoked by the uncertainty. The quarrel spread across the entire home as the night went on. Loud arguments broke out among friends, with some taking sides and others claiming that the whole thing was out of hand. Every hour, conversation was dominated by rumors about who else knew, how long this had been going on, and what lay ahead. Fans were already responding in real time on social media. Within minutes, videos from the dinner went viral, comments poured in, and hashtags went wild. While some applauded Yandy for revealing the truth, others chastised her for doing it in such a humiliating and public manner. However, it was evident that the story had captured everyone's attention. After some time, Sierra got into a car with a close friend and drove out of the house. In the back seat, the cameras captured her sobbing silently while holding her palm against the window, perhaps to contain the torrent of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. The fallout was only getting started back inside. Mendeecees sat, alone in the corner, his head drooping. In the meantime, Yandy persisted in defending her choice, disputing those who believed she had gone too far. She emphasized, "You don't lie to someone you love." The truth was due to her. Broken friendships, unresolved questions, and a flurry of emotions from which no one was quickly able to recover marked the night's end. And it turned into one of those memorable evenings for the crowd where the mayhem felt too real and unfiltered to be easily dismissed. The consequences spread like wildfire the next day. Social media was already buzzing with rumors about the dramatic meal, and fans were analyzing every word, every face, and every detail. As though they were courtroom evidence, some of the clips had been seen hundreds of times, slowed down, zoomed in, and examined frame by frame. For hours, hashtags that portrayed Mendeecees as the ultimate villain and Sierra as a victim were trending. However, there was also disagreement, with some contending that revealing secrets in such a public way was equally harmful and that Yandy's timing was harsh. Sierra herself had become silent while the internet was in disarray. She didn't call or post, and she didn't respond to messages. The rumors were simply amplified by her silence. Does she remain with him? Fans pondered. Did she go away permanently? Whispers became contentious arguments. But behind closed doors, the turmoil had only gotten more intense. Sierra had gone to reside with her sister, who provided her with a safe haven. However, she was unable to avoid the tidal surge of emotions even there. She repeatedly relived the night while seated on the couch with her sister at her side. "How could he have hurt me like this?" she whispered while crying. Holding her close, her sister shook her head. She whispered softly, "You trusted him with everything. He not only betrayed you, but he also betrayed the trust of our entire family." Mendeecees was frantically attempting to contain the damage in the meanwhile. Sierra didn't want to see him, even though he texted, called, and even once visited her sister's house. Without hesitation, she told her sister to tell him to leave. "I'd rather not hear any more excuses." Mendeecees, however, had no intention of giving up. He paced back and forth in exasperation as he confided in a close buddy. He screamed, "She doesn't understand. I didn't mean to harm her." The friend pressed him, perplexed. "I was trying to protect her from something worse." What could be worse than lying about something so significant? What could be worse? However, Mendeecees remained evasive, his remarks fading into quiet. The enigma was only made deeper by this uncertainty. What more did he conceal? Fans made wild guesses and conjectured about everything from financial difficulties to betrayals in the family to even more sinister secrets. Everyone was captivated by the suspense and eagerly awaited the next chapter. However, Yandy had no intention of changing her mind about exposing him. She refused to back down when people asked her if she regretted revealing the truth at dinner. She firmly advised a buddy that there are times when the truth must be revealed in the most repulsive way possible. Her cool rationalization didn't convince everyone, though, as he would have kept stringing her along forever if no one stepped in. Some claimed she was only stirring things up to please herself. Days later, when common friends attempted to gather everyone together for a talk, the turmoil spilled over into a group meeting. Tension permeated every part of the room, and the mood was thick from the beginning. Sierra avoided making eye contact with the Mendeecees by sitting with her arms folded. He was keen to express his opinions despite appearing exhausted as he sat across from her. His voice was lower than normal as he started. "I owe you the truth." "I should have told you myself before it got this bad," Sierra chuckled bitterly. "You believe that acknowledging it now will make a difference?" She fired back. "You've made me look bad in front of everyone." "I can't simply remove that." As friends joined in, the room's volume increased. One vehemently supported Sierra, arguing that she deserves better than this mess. Another attempted to mediate the situation by implying that perhaps things weren't as clear-cut as they seemed. However, Sierra had no desire to make concessions. She yelled, "Don't tell me to be calm. Tell me to be calm." Sierra said icily, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears. You ruined it anyway. Emotions clashed with every word as the debate veered out of control. At one point, Sierra's sister, who had been beside her, got up and spoke directly to the Mendeecees. She firmly stated, "You don't just owe her an apology. You also owe her family one. We had faith in you. We greeted you. And you have made us all look foolish." The room became hushed under the weight of her words. Mendeecees looked down, obviously trembling. However, the silence was short-lived. When one of the pals suggested there might be more to the story than even Yandy had disclosed, a fresh twist emerged. "Are you telling us the truth?" they asked sharply. The room erupted in amazement at the question. Sierra's face became white as she instantly turned to Mendeecees. "Is there anything else?" she insisted. His hesitancy was clear. His mouth opened, but initially nothing came out. Everyone waited, leaning in. At last, he let out a deep sigh. "There's more," he acknowledged. The room was filled with gasps. Even Yandy, who believed she had revealed all, became shocked. "More?" With furrowed brows, she repeated. Trembling with anger, Sierra banged her hands on the table. "Now, what are you withholding? From me? How many more secrets will you reveal to me?" Mendeecees used his hands, which were obviously ripped, to wipe his face. "I'm not allowed to say it here," he whispered. "Not with everyone watching." That response simply exacerbated the situation. Sierra's chair scraped the floor as she suddenly stood up. "You no longer have the authority to determine what I hear and what I don't," she stated firmly. "You're going to say it now if there is more." Everyone in the room shouted for him to come out with the secret. Later, onlookers were left on the edge of their seats, convinced that the situation had gotten out of control. Social media erupted once more, with theories spreading more quickly than ever. What more might he be concealing? One fan posted a tweet. Another person said, "This is the most crazy plot we've ever seen. Sierra will never be free if she doesn't leave after this." With her arms folded, Yandy, the one who had ignited the whole firestorm, sat back. Even she appeared anxious now, as though she had realized that revealing one truth may have revealed a mountain of others. Everyone was shaken by the night's unresolved conclusion, and the audience was left wanting answers. Sierra departed once more, refusing to communicate with the Mendeecees. He, however, appeared to be a man who was unwilling to fully set down a load that was too great for him to bear. Thus, the tension increased, the atmosphere became heavier, and the feelings became more intense. What secret did he still harbor? And would everything be irreparably broken if it were ultimately revealed? Like an immovable storm cloud, the anxiety persisted into the days that followed. Whispers followed. Sierra, wherever she went, even distant relatives, friends, and acquaintances seemed to know something, and their pitying glances just made her angrier. She was unable to avoid the inquiries. What else were Mendeecees concealing? And given that he had previously been exposed, once why wouldn't he come clean? Mendeecees, however, was a man who was falling apart. Every call and text he sent to Sierra went unanswered, making his attempts to contact her futile. As pressure from family, admirers, and his own guilt increased, it felt like the walls surrounding him were closing in. One night, his voice rough, with fatigue, he confided in a friend. "I'll lose everything if I tell it. I will still lose her if I keep it. I'm not sure what to do." The breaking point occurred at a different meeting that neither Sierra nor Mendeecees desired, but which their common friends forced them to attend in the hopes of finding closure. The atmosphere felt oppressive. Sierra was the first to arrive, her hands shaking to reveal the storm within, but her face was a steel mask. Moments later, Mendeecees entered with his shoulders hunched as though he were bearing the entire world. Yandy was also present, silently seated in the table's corner, her eyes alert and vigilant. Even she appeared uneasy about how far things had gone, even though she was the one who started this whole wildfire. Until Sierra eventually broke the silence, it was intolerable. "You mentioned more," she reminded him icily. "Say it now. Everything. Stop telling half-truths." Mendeecees paused, constricted his throat. Everyone in the room stared at him while they waited. He spoke slowly and shakily at first. He admitted, "It wasn't just about protecting myself. It was about safeguarding another person as well. The group was shaken by the statement. Sierra spoke sharply as she leaned forward. Who? Who did you defend? For a brief moment, his gaze strayed toward Yandy, and it was enough to start a fire. Sierra's expression contorted in surprise and incredulity. She yelled, "Don't you dare tell me she's part of this!" gesturing to Yandy. Despite her jaw tightening, Yandy didn't recoil. "Don't twist this," she retorted. "I revealed the truth since it was killing me. I wouldn't have spoken up at all if I had intended to continue shielding him." Sierra got up, almost knocking her chair over. "So you both told me lies? While I sat there like an idiot, you two kept this a secret?" Desperately, Mendeecees raised his hands. "That wasn't the case. My goal was to prevent the past from ruining the future. There were errors, things that weren't supposed to happen, and I knew it. Would destroy us if they came out." Shouts broke out in the room as everyone attempted to understand what he had said. While some begged him to quit skirting the truth, others wanted clarification. Trembling with rage, Sierra's voice broke through the cacophony. "Just say it! What error are you referring to?" The words sounded like thunder as he finally shouted, "Them out." His voice cracked as he confessed, "I wasn't faithful. And it wasn't just anybody, it was a close relative. Too near." The air in the room was sucked out by the confession. Sierra stumbled backwards as though she had been hit. Her chest heaved and her face turned pale. "Near," she repeated incredulously. "Who?" The tension was terrible as everyone's gaze switched between Sierra and Yandy. Immediately, Yandy shook her head. "Avoid looking at me, I would never do that. This is his secret, not mine." However, the harm had already been done. The possibilities rushed through Sierra's thoughts, each one more terrifying than the last. Her sister? A companion? Someone from their social circle? It was nearly worse than a name because of the ambiguity. She let out a cry as she yelled, "I find you repulsive! I loved, trusted, and stood up for you all this time. Is this what you were hiding?" When Mendeecees reached for her, she furiously retreated. "Avoid touching me," she spit out. "After this, you don't get to console me." As voices overlapping, some attempting to comfort Sierra and others scolding Mendeecees, the place fell into turmoil. "You had every opportunity to tell her the truth before it exploded like this," yelled one friend. "Now take a look at the mess you created." Later, admirers pointed out every emotion in the room as they obsessively studied this moment. While some applauded Yandy for standing her ground, others charged that she was more complicit than she acknowledged. Conspiracy theories grew in popularity, depicting the betrayal in ever more dramatic ways. Sierra's pals hurried to her side as she sobbed as she left the event. She was seen on camera yelling, "I can't believe I ever thought he was different," and shaking her head as she stormed out. Mendeecees stayed behind, despondent, sagging in his chair. He said softly, "I've lost her," as he glanced around at the faces looking back at him. However, the narrative persisted even after that. Rumor had it that there were layers, complications, and people guarding their own secrets, and that the betrayal was more complex than mere infidelity. Fans weren't persuaded despite Yandy's insistence that she had spoken the truth she knew. One fan said, "She knows more." Her silence speaks for itself. The consequences were severe. Sierra severed all communication and blocked Mendeecees on social media and her phone. She was largely dependent on her relatives, who promised to shield her from more suffering. Mendeecees, on the other hand, encountered constant criticism on the internet. His name was dragged through the mud and his reputation fell apart. Even his closest supporters started to turn away from him because they didn't want to be linked to the issue. However, the most important point was still unsolved. With whom had he betrayed Sierra? Long after the first shock, the mystery continued, to spark conjecture for weeks. In their circle, Sierra's sadness, Mendeecees' demise, and Yandy's part in revealing it all became one of the most talked about stories, leaving wounds that took a long time to heal. The friendships were strained, the trust was irreparably broken, and the family was split apart. Ultimately, nobody left unharmed. Mendeecees lost the life he had created, Sierra lost the guy she believed to be her friend, and Yandy lost her reputation as a reliable confidant. The future was uncertain, the fragments were dispersed, and the harm was complete. One thing is evident from all that transpired. This story has left nothing but shattered trust, unresolved issues, and an unsettling emotional tempest. Mendeecees was caught in a web he created. Sierra departed with her heart broken, and fans were left unsure of whom to believe. Nevertheless, the most significant enigma remains. Who was the target of his treachery? Was it someone who was actually close to Sierra? Or does the narrative go deeper than what was made public? The role of Yandy is still a contentious issue. Was there more to her quiet than she acknowledged? Or was she genuinely revealing the truth out of guilt and loyalty to Sierra? Fans are always speculating and analyzing every glance, every silence, and every unspoken word. While some maintain that Yandy is aware of the entire situation, but chooses not to disclose it, others think she was just as caught off guard as everyone else. Additionally, there is the question of whether the story of Sierra and Mendeecees is really over. Is this a wound too deep to ever heal, or will forgiveness eventually come? Could Mendeecees turn his life around in some way, or has his fall from grace been irrevocable in the eyes of his former admirers? Unquestionably, the family was split, emotions were running hot, and many are still in disbelief over how fast things fell apart. However, we would want to hear from you today. Should Sierra ever give Mendeecees another chance, in your opinion? Do you think that Yandy has told everything, or is she still keeping things a secret? And whom do you believe Mendeecees' silence was actually protecting? If this drama stunned you, please share your thoughts in the comments section. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe to ensure you don't miss the next twist in this incredible tale. Your viewpoint has the power to alter how this scandal is perceived by everyone.